In today's video, I want to be talking about how I got my green card and being able to stay in the United States legally. Now, in case you don't know my background, I have my doctorate in German studies, and it's not a STEM field, unfortunately. And that is what I want to be talking today, what I went through, how I came, I saw, and I conquered, and how I finally got my green card. Stay tuned. And if you're new here to my channel, be sure to like and subscribe as that's really help my channel. Stay tuned. If you don't know much about this whole green card journey thing, it's not an easy route if you don't have publication or if you don't have citation and if you're not in the STEM field. It's really a tough journey out there. As when I graduated from Vanderbilt, where I had my doctorate in German studies, I I didn't publish that much, and I reached out to several lawyers and I got several rejection. A lot of them told me that they can't take my case. I reached out to a couple of them, and after the whole consultation, I paid consultation fee. I had several Zoom meetings. I reached out to several of them on email. They told me, no, we can't take your case as you don't have the kind of profile we are looking for. And until I came across this lawyer on YouTube who were kind of new in the business, who was just looking for business out there and helping people to write a petition, I decided to give him a try because he seemed to be confident in what he could do. And as at that time, he was charging $3,500 just for the petition alone. And I would tell you, it wasn't an easy money for someone who is just finishing their doctorate degree. And yes, and I'll be putting my resume online. I'm scrolling through my resume, and as you can see, I have attended conferences. I already have two publications from Nigeria. I've even organized conference as at the time I was looking for who to help me write my petition. I had several scholarship. I've gotten scholarship from the German Academic Exchange Service. I've gotten scholarship from different bodies, which actually demonstrated that I'm not just one, I'm not just fitting into the system. I have, you know, done so well for myself as someone who is going to the doctorate program. So what happened? I started working with this lawyer. We wrote the petition. Now, if you are not familiar with working with lawyers, so you end up writing like 60 to 80% of what they want. They ask you to write this, they give you this. So sometimes they ask you to describe your project and how maybe your publication and how it's of national importance to the United States. Um, we were applying through the EB2-NIW route. That was in 2021. And as at that time, there was no backlog as it is right now in 2024. So I did everything I could do, and they assigned me to a case manager. The case manager was someone who is not knowledgeable in my field. And I would tell you, if you're going to go with someone, you can hardly find someone who is knowledgeable in your field. So you don't have to find someone who is knowledgeable in your field to write your petition. You just have to be able to find someone who can write your petition. So that was what I did. This guy wrote my petition. I went through it. I gave him feedback. I think we did like 2 rounds of review from what he wrote. And I wasn't too sure about what he wrote. And since I didn't know what exactly I could write, what I could make up of my field. Because I was working in German studies, I've been teaching throughout my 5 years at Vanderbilt University, and I was focusing on migration studies and Black studies. So there was nothing I could figure out in how to come up with my petition. In November of 2021, we packaged the petition, they shipped it to USCIS, and the wait game started. We started waiting 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. And in between, I will tell you this is an interesting story. I was working at Colorado College where I was teaching as a visiting assistant professor. And the dean at that time wouldn't renew my contract. I had a 4 years contract. I was supposed to be there for 4 years and transition to a tenure track position. The dean wouldn't renew my contract because of visa issue. They wanted to give me a J1 visa, and I told them I don't want a J1 visa. If you cannot get me H1B, I have to go somewhere else. So I lost that job, and because I lost that job, I had no option than to apply for the adjustment of status. And if you know a little bit about the EB2-NIW and the adjustment of status when you're one, it's not a good combination. But I took that risk knowing that my OPT was expiring in July of that same 2022. And even if they deny my petition, I have nothing to lose. So I filed in my adjustment of status in March of 2022, sorry. And we continue waiting. And with that, it came with applying for work authorization. We applied for work authorization. We did the biometrics interview, and we continued waiting. And the wait game was not easy. I remember I told you guys that I just lost my job. So I was looking for all kinds of job out there, any kind of job, just to be in the system and just to stay in the United States legally. And I will tell you, I applied to several high schools. I had several rejection, which was I was keen to it. I remember doing an interview with a university in Connecticut, and they were so interested in my resume, but they told me we cannot. They didn't say that clearly, but I figured out the reason why they wouldn't want to give me the job because of my visa status. I remember one university I would have to call out this university, Eastern Oregon University. I applied to that place. They they told me that I wasn't qualified for the position that I applied for. I was so furious. I was furious, guys. And I reached out to the chair of the department and I said, Chair, do you know I have a doctorate? How come I wasn't qualified? And the chair was so kind enough to tell me because I clicked that I wanted visa sponsorship. Therefore, I wasn't qualified. And this has been a trend where when you click that you want visa sponsorship, you don't even get not even an interview to a Zoom interview to the kind of job I was applying for. I was applying for academia professorial jobs. So that was the case. I had several rejection that way where they tell me that I wasn't qualified or they wouldn't bother looking at my resume because I was asking for visa sponsorship. So that was what I went through. Why after graduating in the with a US degree and searching for jobs. And I would tell you it's a rough journey out because if you don't have a work authorization, it's kind of hard for you to even get a job. They tell you that employers is going to file for you, and I'll tell you that it's just maybe 1 out of 10 employers will be willing to do that, or 2 out of 10, or at most 4 out of 10. Most employers don't want to file for you. And since I started writing petition for people, I have met countless number of people. I've worked with someone with IBM, whom employers don't want to file for. American Airline, employer has been promising him for 3 years. They don't want to file. They kind of promise they will file for him, but nothing. Have worked with someone in Intel. Intel, the guys that make the computer chips and the laptop itself, and they're not filing for him. So he's been wasting his time for 3 years. So it's common in the United States. You think that they're going to file for you, but they don't. So fast forward to August of 2022. Remember, I told you guys that we applied in November of 2021. We got an RFE, request for evidence. And if you've not watched my request for evidence letter, I'm going to link it up in this video so that you could watch it. We got a request for evidence. They said I failed the 3 prongs. And if you don't know what the 3 prongs are, it was on the national importance, My proposed endeavor has substantial merit and is of national importance, and I'm well positioned to advance my proposed endeavor. And on balance, it is beneficial for the United States to waive the labor certification, to waive the labor certification, to waive the labor certification. So I didn't know what to do. I sat down for months thinking how to come about, how to respond to the RFE, because the things that was on the RFE letter was, gosh, if you have ever seen an RFE letter, one thing it does is that it shocks you, it puts you into a panic mode. You start panicking because you don't know how to respond to it. So that was what happened to me. I stayed months, weeks before contacting the lawyer and say, how do we go about it? They assigned me another case manager and we started writing. And that was when someone, he's a Ghanaian, it was my, and then I mixed this out. Then I got a new job at the University of the South at Siwani, where I taught for 2 years. So it was there I met this Ghanaian guy who was more like a brother to me. He couldn't offer me any help in terms of writing letters of recommendation for me, but he was kind enough to help me think through the RFE, because I handed a copy of the RFE letter to him. He read it and he gave me an idea. And what was that idea? He asked me, the people you are teaching German, where did they get jobs? And I told him, he said, okay, can you use that as a proof to show that you are making Americans employable? I say, yes, but I don't have an official document. So I went to the career center of my university, asked them for a career outcome of the German studies program at Sewanee, and I looked for the one for Colorado College. I got the one for Vanderbilt University. These were the three universities I have been teaching in the United States. So I used that, and I also wrote a business plan, how I wanted to start a language school and how the language school will bring money, employ Americans and reduce unemployment rates. And so that was what I packaged in my petition. So I basically wrote the RFE myself, gave to the lawyer the package, and shipped back to USCIS. And it was in writing this RFE that I knew that I have figured it out, because I spent time doing my research, because I felt that what is my PhD if I cannot write if I cannot respond to this RFE? And I will tell you, it was not easy. It took me days. I spent like 2 weeks coming up with ideas. And another thing that I did was I spoke to a lot of people. I asked for new recommendation letters. People bounced me, they ghosted me. And if you're going to be writing this NIW, be ready to be ghosted if you ask for recommendation letters, whether you're asking for from Americans or from Nigerians or even from your country. Some of them might not know what you're asking for. Some of them would choose to write it, but they're not going to write so good. So I would encourage you to write it yourself and give to them to sign if they are comfortable with it. But most of them ghosted me. But I had a very good friend who teaches at JJ Kun and SUNY University in New York. She wrote one good letter of recommendation for me, and another friend at Montana State University wrote a very nice letter for me. So these were the two letters that I used and repackaged my petition, and my petition was approved. I was so happy that very day when my petition was approved. I was dancing. I couldn't believe that now I could stay in the United States legally and permanently. But I will tell you one very good thing out of that stuff. When my petition was approved, I know I told you guys about the Ghanaian guy who was helping me. He was as at that time he was an associate professor. He told me that he couldn't believe that this thing would get approved, because when he read the RFE letter, he was like, "No, I don't think you have what these guys are looking for." But I will tell you, my petition was approved, and I was so happy. And 3 months later, we got our green card, and
Yeah.
my wife and my son that was born in Nigeria. And that was how I was able to, stay here legally and permanently through the EB2-NIW route. And one thing I want to advise you, that if you're coming to the United States and you want to stay here legally and permanently, whenever you come, that very moment you start working, start attending conferences, look for scholarship to apply for funding, do something that will show that you have extraordinary ability, so that by the time you want to package your petition, you will be able to come up with something solid in your petition. And I will tell you, as at the time my petition was approved, I've already organized 2 conference panel at Northeast Modern Language Association, NAMLA, and which means that I've judged the works of others. Because I looked at the conference and the abstract that they sent in and decided which one could fit in. So I would say that I have done a well for myself for my petition to be approved at that time. And yeah, so that was what I went through in order to stay here legally and permanently. And who have not subscribed to my channel, I would appreciate it if you could subscribe to my channel, as that, and share my video with your friends and family, as that really helps my channel. Thank you for watching another video, and I will see you in my next one. Peace.